Hi and welcome to this video in the MRDCL EPS series. EPS stands for Excel Productivity Scripting, and it's the tool you should use for automating and sharing methods of making complex or laborious tasks simple. In this video we're going to look at a practical example of where you want to perhaps automate rating scales or have a system for handling them so that staff can automatically do this without really needing high-level scripters. Of course, to develop this template, this EPS template, we'll need somebody very skilled and someone to maintain it and perhaps to add things to it as features are required. But as I said in a previous video, the more planning you can do in advance, the more you think about the different options that are needed, the easier it becomes to handle. Alright, so in this video, we're going to not cover everything that could be possibly wanted for a template like this, but we are going to cover some of the things that might be useful. And I'm going to try in this video to cover both setting up variables and doing tables all in one video so that you can see how a whole system can be put together for managing, in this case, rating scales that are on a questionnaire, wherever they come up, and also coping with the different table types that are required. We're going to make some assumptions, but that's okay. We can always adapt this further if you wanted to make it more flexible than I'm going to be doing here. I can think of one thing that I've not allowed for any filtering, for example, so everybody's going to answer all these rating scales, and consequently in the tables everything's going to be filtered on everybody. It'll be unfiltered. So that's sort of one weakness of it. But let's look at what we can do here, and let's look at what we've got and what the challenge is. So I've given each of these rating scales an ID. They've got a rating scale name, Q1, Q2 and Q5. I'm just going to quickly edit this one to be Q5 as well, as I just spotted that. And you can see that they're all similarly constructed. The first one starts on data location 11, this one on 21 and 41. This step 1 just means that it goes on 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. In terms of data locations, if you had a step 2, it'd be on 11, 13, 15, 17 and so on. So I've got a system for having the data stored in steps. Then we've got the statement that's containing what's in the rating scale. So if we look at list 1, you can see it's a list of 5 brands, whereas if we look at list 2, that's a list of 6 brands. And of course that can be extended, and automatically then it will generate more script. In here we've got some scales. So we're saying that the scales on these rating statements are very good to very poor for the first 2, and agree strongly to disagree strongly for the third one there. When we come to tables, we want to see this question analysed by gender, this one by age, and here we've got some different types of table that we might want. We might want a top 2 box, a top 2 box and a bottom 2 box, a summary table, and a different type of summary table that's called a summary 2. And indeed there might be many more types of tables that you might want to produce from a rating scale. So we're going to just cover 4 in this video, but you could extend that to 10, 15, 20 or more different types of tables that you might want, so that people could just mark off what they wanted and automatically get the tables that they require. So let's start with the data stage of this, picking up the variables. And we're going to develop this a little bit step by step. So let's start by first of all then going to our STP file, and I've got one that's very made here, and let's just put in the gender and age questions, and let's say they're on location 6. And let's put in age, because I can see they're used as banner points for the tables. And we're going to have here 16 to 34, 35 to 44, and 45 plus. And now we can start to worry about our rating statement so that we get these variables automatically generated. Now the first thing I need to do if I'm going to use a workbook is to open it. I tend to open this at the top, but you only need to open it when you need it, so it could have gone further down. It's called my workbook.xls, so it's called my workbook. and it's good practice to close that at the end as well, otherwise you can leave it open and slow down your computer. I've done this several times. So let's open my workbook. Oops, I haven't called it a name, so I'm going to call it DBXLS. I should have given it a name. Failed that. Okay, so I've given it a name, DBXLS. I could have called it anything I liked. It's just my name that I tend to give to my first workbook. If I open another one, I call it DBXLS2 and so on. So there's my workbook. It's open. It's now ready to start processing these rating statements. So we want to basically go from the top of this worksheet here to the bottom. So I'm going to tell it to go to the rating scales worksheet, and I'm going to want it to perform a loop. So I'm going to say DB loop, DB1, the workbook called DBXLS, which is my workbook XLS, and the rating scales is the name of the worksheet. And just to remember that I'm going to close it at some point. So that's the loop it's going to go round. So the first thing it's going to do is to pick up the rating scale and define a variable for each item in the list here. So list 1 will tell me how many brands I'm picking up for this one. List 2 will tell me how many brands for this one, and this one also uses list 1 over here. So that's going to tell me how many brands to pick up. So I'm going to go around the loop and I'm going to pick up, first of all, the rating scales that I want. So I'm going to type in DB loop DB2 equals DBXLS. Now the rating scale the sheet I want to loop round is the one referred to in the column headed statement. So I want to go round, I want to find the worksheet that's mentioned in here, which is in DB1 dot statement. And that will need 2 square brackets, one to close the DB2 loop and one to in case DB1 dot statement. So that's the basic loop that I'm going to work round, and I will have to end that at some point, so let's close that now so that we don't forget. The names of my variables are going to be called DB1 dot, and it's called rating scale here, and I'm going to call them underscore 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 brands, I think, for the first one. I think there's 6 for the other list, so that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But there's no way of knowing that. It's not in the worksheet telling me that they're not numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're just set there in an order. So I'm going to actually number them for myself, and the way I do that is I'm going to set an index, and I'm going to call it rating number equals looked. And then when I come through here, I can set rating number equal to rating number plus 1, which means that when I get here, I can refer to rating number. So that's picking up the variable name for me. So it'll pick up Q1 underscore 1, Q1 underscore 2, down to Q1 underscore 5. So that's going to do that for me. Now I've got to pick up the column number. Now, I don't know if you remember in other videos, if you're picking up a number, it's always best to set it into an index. So step and location are set here. So we need to find out what they are. So let's go into here. And in here, I can say set location is db1 dot location, and set step is db1 dot step. Alright, so that's picking up, so it's data location. Let me stop that, so that would not work. So the location index is being set from db1 dot data location, and the steps being picked up from the field next to it. So that now I can say that what I want in here is location / But let's not worry about that for a minute. What I want here, though, is to step up the location by the value in step. Now, step happens to be 1 here, so it's just going to step it up by 1. So the next time it goes round this loop within the list, it's going to step it up by 1. So as there's 5 brands in list 1, Q1 underscore 1's in 11, Q1 underscore 2's in 12, Q1 underscore 3's in 13. If that was a step of 2, it would go 11, 13, 15, 17, 19. So that should do all that for me. And now I can pick up the codes. Now I can play this how I want to. I could tell it how many codes it had here. So maybe that's something we want to do. So let's add in codes, and we'll say it's 5, 5, and 7. So we've said that we want very good to very poor text, but we've got 5 codes in there. So let's pick up that piece of information in a set statement. Set codes equal db1.codes. Right, and in here we can assume they start at 1, and we can say they go from 1 to 5, and we'll put an E on the end for an error bit, I don't know, not stated code. So that's defined my variable for me. We need to check that's all working, because it's obviously very easy to make a mistake when you're writing this script. As I've always said, always make sure this is shut when you're running. Just for convenience in this video, I'm leaving it open. But it will slow your runs down if you've got any big workload. So let's compile that and let's look at the code we've got, and it looks quite good to me. I've got my 2 variables at the top, gender and age, and it's generating all this code for me from those statements. So I've got Q1 underscore 1 to 5, Q2 underscore 1 to 6, and Q5 underscore 1 to 5, but picking up codes 1 to 7 for that one. So that's looking good so far. Now I've got to tell it about the labels that I want here, and you'll see in here that we've got VG to VP and AS to DS. So what we need to do now is give it those labels, and we could have other label type text in there. You might have scored 1 to 10 or something like that for another set of statements, but we're only going to plug in just the 2 here. So what I want to do here is call the labels dependent on which type they're being called. So I want to say skip 99 string db1 dot texts not equal to vg dash vp, like that, star 99. So in here I'm going to put the texts. So I'm skipping this if they're not VG to VP, but if they are, I'm putting the text in as very good with a score of 5, quite good with a score of 4, neither good nor poor with a score of 3, quite poor with a score of 2, very poor with a score of 1, and finally not stated, which has no score on it at all, which I might put that on as well. Alright, so that's given me the labels if it's VG to VP. It hasn't given me the labels though if I want the agree strong to disagree strongly, so I need to have another set of labels in here for that. Let's go back and check. They're called ASDS, so let's change that to ASDS. Now that was agree very strongly, 7. The next one was agree quite strongly, 6. Agree a little, which is 5. And of course this could be +2 to -2. Neither agree nor disagree. I'm just going to put in the word neither. And we've got disagree a little, which is 3. Take these other ones out now. Disagree quite strongly, which is 2. And finally disagree very strongly, which scores 1. So that's my labels in, so it'll pull in the relevant labels there with a skip 99 to just collect the ones I want. Let's check that's working. Okay, I've got some error in there. Let's find that error, and you can see what I've done. I've put a colon on the end here, so it's found that error for me. It's just that one there. Hopefully that will correct it, and it does. So now my script is working. It's picking up everything that I want. So now we can see it's gradually expanding this code quite quickly. And the data locations look good, so that looks good so far. The next we've got to do is pull in the table title. Well, the table title is a combination of this title here and the brand in here. So we need to put that title in. So let's go down here. And so the title might be something like this. It might be db1.title, so we want the title from the db1 loop, but we want to pull in the brand from the list here. So that's db2.list. And that should pull in the text. Let's again check that. And check the titles are coming in, and that's looking very good now. And it looks like we've got that piece of the work done. So we've got as far as putting in the data stage of this project now. So we're now ready to go on and carry out the table stage. And I'm just moving down the close of the DBXLS, so we're ready now to work on the tables. Now the tables are going to be quite complicated here. So what I'm going to do now is look ahead and see what it is I want. I'm actually going to look up here, and you can see I want 4 different types of table when I run through here. And so I've got to pick out what it is that I want and have 4 different sets of tables depending on what's been selected. So the first thing I want to do is a table with a top 2 box. And so that will mean that I've got to do something to pick up each of the things in here in a tidy sort of way. So let's go into this now. The loop again is going to be on the same workbook. So we're going to say star db loop db1 dbxls semicolon rating scales. Again, we'll close that so we don't forget to close it later on. So that's got us this far. Now we want to know what we've got to do with these variables. Now, if we're going to do a top 2 table, we need to make a variable from that. If we're going to, and another variable if we're going to do a top 2 and a bottom 2. So I think we'll need to invent a variable for this. So let's get into that. So let's do a table where a top 2 box is needed. So the first thing I'm going to do here is to say, well, unless the top 2 box is needed, I don't want this work. So we're going to say skip 99 string db1 dot top 2 equal to x. So it's going to skip this piece of code unless it's equal to x. And we've got the same thing to do with top 2 bot 2, so I'm going to just get this all ready. Top 2 bot 2. Go down to the next one, which is summary. And go to the last one here, is summary 2. Alright, so I'm now ready to put these tables in. So if I want a top 2 box from each of the rating statements in Q1, I've got to decide how I'm going to do that. And probably the easiest way to do that is build another variable from the Q1 series. So let's look at how we're going to do that. So what I can do now is I can say something like this. I can say that if I want a top 2 box, I will say something like DM, a new variable, top 2, I'm going to call it TT, underscore the variable I've got. Now this means I'm going to have to loop through, just like before on the DB2 loop. We've got to use the column called statement, 2 square brackets. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a variable called TT underscore DB1 dot rating scale, just like before, and I'm going to add on the end of that the number it is in the statement. So I'm going to set again in here, I might just put this outside the skip command so that I've always got it. I'm going to set in here an index, so I'm going to call it rating number, set it back to 0 so that every time I come through here I can set rating number equals rating number plus 1. And in here then I can call rating number. And I can say that the top 2 box is, I'm going to copy this because I'm feeling a bit lazy. I missed out $1 here, so that would have caused some problems, but it's all of this here without the TT on the front. I don't want the TT, so I want the original variable, and I want codes 1 to 2, and then I want the rest of the variable as it was before. So I just can repeat that like that. So that will give me codes 1 to 2, and then it will give me the variable as it stands, which means that in the labels I can say top 2 box, quote, plus, and I think I can just paste that name in. I've got $2 there, and it can just add in the original labels that it had. And I can also say that the labels are the same as the original variable because they're just a top 2 box in there. Now I've got that, I'm ready to put in my tables, and what I'll do here is I'll say set t equals 0 so that when I get into here I can loop through and put in all my tables that I want. So the table number here is plus t equals, and this time I do want the TT variable because that's the one that's got the top 2 in it, and strange character there. I want to analyze that by the variable in the banner column. So I want that by db1 dot banner, and hopefully that does my table. And probably it'd be better practice to have closed my loop before then, but I've done it here now. I've actually just keyed it in, and so hopefully that'll do any top 2 tables that we want. Now I'm sure that might have some problems, so let's compile that and see if I've got it right. And it's just compile that again. I think I executed it as well, and it's looking quite good. So what I'm getting now is a variable called TT underscore Q1 underscore 1, which is coming from Q1 underscore 1, 1.2, then Q1. The labels are being pulled together here, and then it's analysing it by gender, doing the same thing with table 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I've got my 5 tables out. Now that that's working, it's reasonably safe to go ahead and deal with the next thing that I wanted to do. It's the top two and bottom two. So I'm going to copy this code again. Now this time I've got to be a bit more careful because I want a bottom two and a top two and a bottom two. Now for the rating scale of 5, it's okay to pick up 4 to 5, but for the rating scale of 7, I'm going to need to pick up 6 and 7. So this line of code here needs to be conditional on the number of codes that I'm picking up. So I'm going to have to pick up here the number of codes in my loops, and I don't think there's any harm in doing that here at the top. So I'm going to say set codes is db1.codes. Just check it is called codes. It is called codes, which means that down here I can say star skip 88 on codes not equal to 5. So it's going to do that code for me when it is equal to 5. And if I copy paste this, when it's 7 codes, I want to pick up 6 and 7. The 1 and 2 will stay the same, but the 6 and 7 are going to be the 6 and 7 codes that I want. And hopefully that's going to, I just need to change this label. And hopefully that's going to do everything for me because everything else is the same, the tables and so on. Let's check that. Will I get an error this time? I did get an error this time. And that's because I've called it TT again. That's my mistake. I should have called it TTBT. So let's go down to here. So I didn't rename the variable, so it's a top 2, bottom 2. That was the mistake I made, and I should have obviously called that in the table. So when I want those tables, okay, I can see the problem here. This rating number should be within each of the loops that we might go through. So I just need to edit this. That's fine. Okay, so let's just compile that now, see whether it works, and we have now got liftoff. We're now getting all the tables we want. There they are, the top 2 box and the bottom 2 box for Q1. For Q2 we get the top 2 box and the bottom 2 box, and for Q3 we don't get either of those, which is mirroring what it says in the worksheet over here. For question 1 we want both, and for question 2 we want just the top 2 and the bottom 2, and nothing for question 3 because we haven't got as far as doing the summary tables yet. So we're starting to get this together now. So let's move on to the summary table now. And what I'm thinking here is we're going to produce each of the statements side by side as columns. So brand A will be in the first column, brand B in the second, brand C in the third, and so on. Now, I find this quite complex code to write this because it's quite complex MRDCL code anyway, more complex than some of the more standard stuff that we've been doing above. So what I'm going to start with here is actually just to key the table in for table 1 so I can see what it looks like. So I might have to put in the dummy variable here, which I'm going to call summary Q1, which will be 5 brands. And I might say something like this, that H equals brand A, brand B, brand C, brand D, brand E. Now, I'm only keying this in so I can see what I've got to do when I come to do the tables. And my table here, let's call it table 999 at the moment, will be not increment table, not print total column, and it will be Q1 underscore 1 times $summary underscore Q1. So that's the table I want, and I'm going to say star do A equals 1 to 5, and the table 999 is $Q1 underscore A star A end A. Now that's if I was doing the table in a sort of normal way, not as an EPS script. Let's check that's working first of all. So we're going to run that. And sure enough, if we go to table 999, that's working absolutely fine. Now I've got it in this state, I find it easier to substitute what I've got to do to turn it into an EPS script. So let's go to table 999 and look at what we need to do. Well, I want to do a loop here, and the way I get through this loop is by looping through my table. Well, I'm already doing that, so I know it'll be summary Q1. So I can go into here and say that my variable here I'm going to call db1 dot rating scale. Just check that back. Yes, that's the name. So that'll pull in the 1 for me. Now, how do I know it's 5 brands of this particular case? Well, I don't. So I need a way to count that. So I'm going to put in here a piece of code, and there's a rather good statement called db lines columns is db1 dot equals db xls color db1, and we get that from the statement worksheet. And what that will do, it'll set the index columns, cols, to the number of rows that there are in the worksheet list 1. So that I no longer have to have 5 there. I can just substitute cols in there, and that will automatically put 5 in brackets for me. But when it's of course list 2, it will automatically put 6 in me, because that's list 2 has got 6 brands in there. Alright, so I'm starting to make some progress with this table now. Now I need to get the labels. So it's going to be H equals quote, but I don't know what I've got to loop through here. So let's loop through again. db loop db2 is dbxls db1.statement square brackets. Now we know that there's 5 columns in this. There's going to be 5 columns in this table. So now I want to just pick up what's in here. So I'm going to substitute brand A with db2.list and take these out, because it's going to do that automatically. And I'm going to say db and db2. Now this is all going to be fine with a quote comma on the end, except I don't want the last semicolon. So when it hits the 5th one, I want to not have the semicolon. This is a technique that you quite often use when you're using EPS. So it's worth watching this here now. So I'm going to go through this loop, and I'm going to put in an index called got, which is equal to 0. Every time I go through the loop, I'm going to say set got is got plus 1. So that when I'm here, if got is the same number as cols, I want to skip the semicolon. So skip 22 on got equal to cols. Otherwise I'll get an extra semicolon that I don't want. And now I'm hopefully getting a bit nearer the table I want. I think it's worth checking it again, because it'd be easy to mistake a mistake on that. Let's look at summary underscore Q1. Let's see what it looks like. Looking quite good. It's got what I want here. Now I've got to make the table do what I want. So let's go down to this. And now we've got to come for the table. So the table will quite simply be plus T, because that's how we're incrementing our table numbers. That's nice and easy. This will be db1.rating scale. It's fine being underscore 1, but it's not fine being summary underscore Q1 there. It wants to be db underscore rating scale. And the reason I'm doing it this way is just again because it's easier to manage the substitution. So here we go. We've got that. We probably want to pull in a title here, because it's not going to be quite what we want. So I'm going to pull in db1.title and call it summary. Now I want a loop of 1 to cols, not 1 to 5 anymore. My table number doesn't step up, it stays as T. This becomes db1.rating scale, and hopefully I built quite a complex table here. Let's compile it. It looks pretty good to me. So that looks fine. So this leaves us with the summary 2 table. Now in this table we're going to produce a mean score only for each of the statements, one underneath the other, by a banner. So this is probably not quite so difficult, so I'm going to try and do this in one go without substitution like I did at the for the last type of table. So we're now going to loop through here again, db22, dbxls, semicolon, db1 dot statement. This is not so much difficult, but slightly fiddly because there's so many things you've got to remember with a mean score. So the basic thing we're going to be pulling in here is a mean score label, which is going to come from the db2 loop. So that's going to come and pull in the brand. And I think it would be a good idea, having completed this table, to set it back to mean score, just in case there's another table that follows a little bit later on. So that's going to pull in the brand A, B, C, D, etc. And we probably want to set a counter here so that we can know which one we're doing in the list, so with the first, second, third, fourth or fifth. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to step up the table number using a set T command this time, so I think it'll be a little bit easier to do. So we're now ready to actually go through that loop. So we're in here, and now what I want to do is every time we come through here, I want to know where I am. So I'm going to set counter to 0 here, and inside this loop I'm going to step up counter by 1 so that I know whether I'm doing the first, second, third, fourth brand or whatever it might be. And then I can put in my code for the table itself, and this is a little bit fiddly and easy to get wrong. So when it counter is equal to 1, I don't want the plus symbol, because otherwise it will put it onto the bottom of the previous table. I want the table number to be the counter, so it'll be whatever table number it is with A, B, C, D, E added on the end. I don't want to show the distribution. I don't want to see the alpha in the table number so that it doesn't come out as A. But I want to tabulate db1 underscore rating scale, and I want to tabulate it by db1 banner. So that bit on the end's a little bit easier. And after it, I'm going to want to put a title on, so I'm going to skip 22 again on counter not equal to 1, and say that the table here is rather like the previous one, db1 title, and add on the end the words mean score summary, and put in a star 22 after that, and hopefully that will do most of the work for me. So let's just check that and see how that's going. It'll be easy to make a mistake here, so let's just see what we've got. And I have got a problem. I've got a table name that's wrong in the row 97, so let's see if I could spot that. And in fact I've left off another square bracket there, which is easy to do. And I've got a variable reference for the definition, and I'm not pulling in the counter number here, so that's my other error. So I did do quite well, but I've made a couple of mistakes, which is easy to do in this sort of thing. So it's actually worth, I think, keeping this and not editing out the video, just so you can see what sorts of problems really do occur. And now I think I've got my mean score only table coming out here at the bottom. So I'm now ready to run these tables. Let's see what we get. There we go, we get 19 pages, and these look like good tables to me. So I'm getting some data out. This one's got a top 2 box now. That all looks good to me. and further down we'll get a top 2 box and a bottom 2 box coming out. And what this means now is that everything is controlled from this worksheet. So if I add a top 2 box here, save it of course, and run it again, I should get more pages. I now get 24 pages rather than, I think it was 18 or 19 before, and it's starting to look good. Now I'm going to add one more final thing to this, because this is starting to look quite an ugly script file, and really we don't want this, and we probably want our questionnaire to look a little bit more flowing than it is at the moment. So this is the final thing that I would do to this, so it becomes a really true EPS template that anybody can use. So I'm going to actually take out this code here, and I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to put it in a new file, and this could go on the server, it could go absolutely anywhere. So I'm actually going to save it in the same directory in this particular case, and I'm going to call this rating vars.stp. So this could go on the server, and this means I've got a common piece of code that anybody could use, that somebody maintains obviously. And what I'm going to put in here now is insert rating vars. So that will just drop it in for me, and it will read my workbook and do what I want. But I actually would like to make it one step better than that. And by the way, I'm going to just do the same thing here as well. So I'm just going to do the same thing with rating tables. It's quite a long piece of code this now, but the idea is that you never look at this code again. So there it goes. Open up a new window, paste it in, save it as rating tables, and I should be able to save that, and in here I should be able to insert the underscore tables, and if I've done that correctly, save that as well, it should all just work as it did before. Absolutely fine, it's all working fine. But now my script is a lot tidier, as you can see. But actually, I haven't. This rating system here picks up questions 1, 2, and 5, and that might not be too bad in the data stage, but in the table stage, I don't want all my rating tables together. So I actually want a way of referring to the one I want to work on, in this case 1, 2, and 3, and having it at the right place. So what I'm going to do here is set rating ID. I haven't used rating ID before. I just want to check that, because that would cause I don't appear to have used it before, so I'm going to set rating ID equal to 1 and insert it. Insert 2 and then 3, so that if I want to put in question 3 in here, in its logical order, and question 4 in here in its logical order. I'm just putting in some very basic scripts in here just so I've got them. Now I could just change my script so that it only puts in the 1 here with the rating ID that I want. So the way I can do that is I can open up, for the last time hopefully, my rating vars and skip, that's not there, I want to say set this rating equal db1 dot, let's find its number here, db1 dot rating underscore ID, so it has already used that, that's where I remembered it from. And now I can say skip 999 on this rating not equal to rating ID. So what it's going to do, it's just going to do the one that I want. And if I go to the, just before the DB end here, I can put in star 999 and hopefully it will put in place just the ones I want. And now this code here, this insert rating bars, can just sit on the server and never be looked at again. Let's have a look. So now I get question 1, question 2, and hopefully tucked in there somewhere, there we are, we've got questions 3 and 4 now in its logical place because it's just doing just question 5 when it comes to that line. And of course I can do the same thing with the table, so I can get down to here and I can set rating ID is 1, copy it here, 3, which means in here I can put another table in for Q3 by gender if I want something like this, Q4, and now I've got a really true system. I just need to make the final change to rating tables.stp with the same idea as I had before. So in here, set this rating equals db1.rating_id. I want to say start skip 999 on this rating not equal to rating ID. Go to the bottom and in here I have star 999 and hopefully the whole of this thing will work now. And there we go. We have a really complete system now where we have some scripts that can sit on the server. So these insert files can sit on the server. They're controlled by the rating ID, which is in that column of the workbook. You can set what your workbook is up here. It could be a different name on a different path. And everything can truly be shared now in a very tidy script so that all that someone's got to do is set a reference here, manage the workbook, and everything is automated. Well, I hope you found that helpful and impressive. I think it's impressive. It really makes things very easy once you've got these templates in place. You can really automate some quite complex things, as I have done here, and you could obviously build on this to do far more. Thank you for joining me on this video, and hope this helps you to start setting up some complex EPS code that everybody can share and really increase your productivity. Thank you for joining.